2015 with the end of the year. So whatever projections you made, they have translated themselves into real numbers throughout the year. So we will not spend time and energy on 2015. 2016, we will do our utmost to try and get that budget done. There's quite some challenges that we face, and many things that we have to do to reach that point. It's not an easy task. Everybody's going to have to bite the bullet, but we have no choice because it's the law. You have to have your budget balance. So there's going to have to be some reduction, serious reduction in expenditures to bring them in line with a reasonable projection of income given historic performance. Historically, we could state that approximately 445 million, between 440 and 445 million, is what we generate in income. So I think it should be a quite easy exercise. The 445 million is your cake, and you always have, if you eat your cake, you don't have it anymore. But that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been eating our cake and then behaving as if we still have cake. So the approach I'm using is, what is a reasonable, objective projection based on historical performance, and expenses simply have to be brought in line with it, and you would end up with a balanced budget. There are two items that are very challenging, and that is the debt that has been built up to SZV and APS for the last 5 years, starting 10-10-10, which we are being required to settle within 3 years. It's an amount that probably runs around 150 million, and a solution has to be found to be able to settle that in our 2016 budget and our multi-annual 5-year budget. And that is where the focus is on right now to get that done.
Okay, Minister Gibson, you stated that there's a serious reduction in expenditure is needed. One of the biggest items on the budget is, of course, personnel expenses. How do you intend to deal with that? Would you cut salaries? Would you cut time? Would you cut people?
Each ministry has a responsibility in that respect. As I said, if you have a cake and you slice this up amongst the ministries, that's what they have, and they've got to make that work.
Yeah.
Because you can't not make it work because there's no more cake.
Okay. Okay, for now, thank you.
Yeah, let's stick with the budget. Do I understand correctly that you want to bring the 2016 budget down to a level of 445, 450 million?
Yes, in line with what our income has been average for the last 2-3 years, that you can reasonably say that's going to be your income next year. What has been done in the past is they use a different approach. They start saying, well, what is our expenses based on the desires of each ministry? And then they go and see what their average revenues has been, and then end up with a gap. And then design strategies to say, well, we are going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do the other to make up for the difference of 20-30 million given the budgets of each ministry and the average income that you have. And what has happened in the past is none of those strategies that they say they would execute to generate the additional income has ever been met. So you always end up with a budget that is not balanced. I'm approaching it differently. I'm starting not from what the desires are from different ministries. That's irrelevant. If I don't have a cake, even though I desire more cake, but it's not there, you can desire it. I want to start with the cake that we have. And that cake we're going to divide, and then each ministry will have to work to make sure they stay in line. And they can still design strategies for income increase. But they will have to execute those strategies first, generate the income first, and then the cake could get bigger.
Okay, thank you. Another question. During your visit to the Netherlands, you spoke with Minister van der Steur about assistance for the police for a period of 3 months. Could you give some more details about it? And does this come on top of the 50 detectives that were already supposed to come here?
Has nothing to do with it. It's separate and independent of. During the last couple of months, we have been experiences a spate of crimes. And a strategy has to be developed to combat that. For that, prior to me taking the post of Minister of Justice at interim, a request had been sent months ago for assistance in this regard, but no response had been received until I went to the Netherlands last week. And in that meeting, during the meeting, 6 experts were approved for 3 months to come and analyze.
6?
And the 6 experts. And the strategy to cope and combat that phenomena that we are going through.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Minister Gibson, and
Morning.
congrats on your appointment. You mentioned during the answer of your first question that one of the biggest challenges in the 2016 budget is the amount we owe to SZV and APS. Now I know that you're still relatively new, but what are your ideas on how this can be resolved over the 3 years that we've been given to resolve it?
I think it's premature to divulge that publicly at now. Besides that, it changes. I'm trying everything to get it resolved, and that means various sources and ideas are coming up. And so I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be, or if I am going to succeed. What I do know is we've got to roll up our sleeves, tighten our belt, and be very creative to be able to deal with that. And I'm not taking off the table, too, a possible request for an extension of the instruction because of that, and in regards thereto. I'm the new kid in the block, and you just can't build palaces in 1 or 5 days or 1 week or 1 month. I'm trying. I'm hopeful, but I can't promise.
Thank you for that. Now the police union, you're also the police union. They've expressed dissatisfaction that a meeting with you was cancelled or postponed rather yesterday. And earlier, when you were in the Netherlands, they issued a 72-hour ultimatum for authorities to address all of the pressing issues affecting the police force. What is your response? How do you plan to address this whole issue? Because the union, they say their members, they're very frustrated. They're saying that it's been many years and no solution to their concerns. How do you plan to address this, and particularly given an ultimatum that it had been looming?
Well, first of all, it's unfortunate. Some misunderstanding occurred. I do not know exactly where. What I do know is I personally made an appointment with members of the board of the union for a meeting. I was there, but only one person showed up, said they're waiting for the others. And I waited for about 25 minutes. Nobody showed up. And I had to go into another meeting. So I requested that we postpone it until Monday, and then to have the meeting. Again, all of the issues that concerns that matter, I don't have them in my fingers, but I know that there are certain rights that they have that have not been attended to, needs to be attended to, and it all comes back again to budget, money, expenses, waste. Those are the issues. I think that they have a right to receive certain payments and promotions. But as they say in Dutch, you cannot break iron with your hands. And that's where the tension lies, but it has to be dealt with.
Are you therefore saying or suggesting that the police will also have to tighten their belts?
Everybody. There's no exception. Look, if you look around, you see people riding on bikes. You see people riding in Volkswagens. You see people riding in Audis, in SUVs. The people who ride the bikes, why do you think they ride the bikes? Because they have an SUV park in the yard? That's what they could afford. Do you think they don't want to have an Audi or a SUV or a Mercedes-Benz? They too would like to have it, but they can't. You don't think they would want to have safety cameras all around their house to protect them against safety? But they can't afford it. Why you think it's different in government? It's no different. We have to do what we can afford with what we have. So when you start thinking about how do you balance the two, like every housewife have to do, every bike rider who goes to ride, that's what we have to do. There's some things we can do and some things we can't do because it's not there. We behave as if we have an infinite mountain of resources that all you got to come and we'll give it to you and you can get it and you can demand it. And that's not reality, unfortunately.
I understand that. Do you think that the police tightening their belts like the rest of the community will have any impact on their fighting of the crime that is spiraling out of control?
Okay, so that's exactly the tension that I'm talking about. If you want to get to the moon, you need a rocket. You could want to get to the moon because by the moon you might find minerals that are useful to you and resources, but you also have to have the means to get there. If you don't have the means, you will have to do without until you can generate the means to be able to get there. To a lot of people, this sounds like a foreign, strange concept, but it's a very logical, normal approach to things. You need to have priorities and you need to make choices. If we are going to build more roads, the resources we have, we'll have to take away from another corner. If we're going to give the police department everything they want, everything they need to make sure we have maximum safety, that has to come from somewhere else. Do we take it from the schools? Do we take it from the rest of the human resources that we have in government that we have to get rid of to do it? It's cannons of butter. Hard decisions, all right? But you can't act as if you have all the resources and everybody can get everything.
And my final question, Minister, you also hold a responsibility for the census office, I believe.
The what?
The census office, no?
Census? No.
Number plates?
Number plates?
Yes.
Finance, yes.
Yes, okay. We're already in December, and January is fast approaching. And like I said earlier, I know that you're still new, but do you have any updates on what's going on with the 2016 number plates? Has a design already been chosen? Are we going to be on time for it,
Don't know.
with it? You don't know? Thank you.
Honest, I do not know.
Thank you so much.
I've tackled the things using all the time I've got available, 16 hours a day, every day. And there's still a lot of things I got to get to. And this I haven't gotten to yet. What I do know, I can tell you about number plates, is that there is legislation now in Parliament to increase number plate license fees. That was set on its course before my time, and it's at Parliament to be handled when they choose the date.
Thank you so much, Minister.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Minister.
Morning.
Sticking to crime, we had a shooting last week. Now this week we had another shooting. Your approach as Interim Minister of Justice.
My approach?
Yes. What would be your approach to this? Does the crime situation continue to increase?
Well, as you know, the last couple of months, there has been an explosion of these kinds of crimes. And the first question you ask, how come? Why? What is causing it? What is the most effective way to combat it? And that's why, before I even came aboard, I'd asked for expert assistance to analyze this and then to go and design the effective ways to deal and combat it. Again, our hands are tied, but we have to work with what we have. When I said to you, for years, I can remember since I was president of the Crime Task Force, going back at the time when we had one police car. When you call a police, the attitude and the feeling was, well, they ain't gonna come anyway. So you sleep with a baseball bat under your pillow. This phenomena has been going on for more than 35 years and still exists. We made a plan as to what would be a normal, reasonable size of the police force, taking everything in consideration. And we're working towards that. Right now, you probably only have 60%. But each one that you take, additionally, costs money. So we'll have to take it away from somewhere else. Or you have to say, listen, we have to row with the oars which we have as best as we can. And as best as we can, as it is now, is better than it was 25 years ago. We have to expand the economy, because clearly we have to generate more revenues. That also means tax compliance. Tax compliance is low. We have to devise strategies to increase it. This is not the first time you're hearing this. But I hope to come with a methodology different than before that would effectively not raise taxes, but effectively create an awareness that paying your share of taxes is necessary and compulsory, and there's going to be a price to pay. From here, I'm sending that message. We don't want more taxes, because I think it's already high. We just want what the law says we're entitled to, that we should get. If we get that, these budgetary problems we're going through would be solved quite easily, simply by people doing what they're supposed to do. Through the years, the consciousness and awareness that you've got to give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's is not top of mind. We've got to make that top of mind.
Thanks.
Andrew, thank you very much for your questions. Vivi, you have the floor. Good morning, Minister Gibson, and congratulations on your appointment. I have.
Want to give me condolences, I think.
No, I don't want to give you condolences because I know you have two very heavy portfolios, and I'm going to dive right into two issues that are affecting your ministries. You have two portfolios, Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Justice. One is located here at the administrative building and one in 80 Illit Road. Do you have MR3 in your possession that you can get from here to there during the day?
Well, MR3 is in my possession.
It's in your possession.
It's parked up in front of the Department of Justice. It's parked up there. I get from where today in my car that I had before.
Okay. Since when did you get the vehicle?
Monday morning.
Okay. When you went to the Netherlands to discuss various issues, including the instruction given to St. Martin, did you discuss the issue of the CID?
Yes.
And can you give us an update on that?
Well, the CID regards a controversy that existed between the former Minister of Justice and the Procureur General, relative as to whether or not the steps that the Procureur General took, that those steps was his prerogative, or whether or not he needed the permission of the Minister of Justice to take those steps. That's what the CID, Criminal Gathering Information Controversy, is really about. One day after I swore the oath is when I went direction in Holland, so the information I don't have, although I read a lot of it in the plane. And we decided to let's see what is the real problem and whether or not this CID problem is a storm in the glass, or whether or not somebody is stepping on somebody else's authority. That is being worked out, that is being studied, and no firm decision has been made yet, but I'm working towards trying to get rid of that irritation as best I can.
This is 2015 at the end. We were supposed to have, the end of 2015, sorry, and we were supposed to have an analysis as to our progress since St. Martin became a country. And one of the...
As to what?
An analysis as to St. Martin's
Become a country.
progress since St. Martin became a
Yes,
country.
yes.
And one of the things the former minister was looking at is getting St. Martin its own attorney general, because the attorney general we currently have is sitting in Curacao, but yet writing reports about the crime situation in St. Martin based on his analysis. Are you, as Minister of Justice interim, is going to fight for St. Martin to get its own Minister of Justice? Its own attorney general, sorry?
We've been fighting for that for 15 years and still fighting for it because the situation is different, you see. When we had the Netherlands Antilles, the Procureur General sat in Curacao.
Yes.
And you saw, and Procureur is charged with managing the prosecution department on St. Martin. In practice, what you saw developing is that the Procureur General gave very little attention.
To St. Martin.
And the principal prosecutor here actually did everything. You also saw, because of the financial problems at the time, that a fax machine, for instance, that is discarded and replaced with a new one in Curacao, that fax machine was brought here and put at the prosecution, hand-me-downs, and that was the order of the day. You also saw that certain opinions that were being expressed were not really accurate, and it stemmed from the fact that you have to be here to feel the pulse, to know what goes on in the community, to be able to take the correct and appropriate steps to deal with it. And we did not see that, so we fought, we begged, we pleaded, we scratched, and we kicked, insisting we want our own Procureur General living, working on St. Martin. There was the Netherlands in the negotiation did not want that at all. Why? They prefer to deal with one as opposed to dealing with two, because there's two different paths they would have to follow. But we know what we were talking about and what we'd experienced in the past, and we wanted improvement. So we had the Attorney General. The agreement was made, all right, the Procureur General, you don't want to appoint one for St. Martin, but then we want to have the Attorney General with authority mandated from the Procureur General to the Attorney General who lives and works on St. Martin. So we said to them, we no longer want to pick up the phone and call Curacao for matters that concerns crime and safety on the island. We want to walk across the street and sit down and look you in the eye and say, listen, this is the problem, let's deal with it. That has been partially complied with. The Attorney General here has some mandated authority from the Procureur General. But overall, it does not meet the desires and wishes that we have, and we still today insist we want our own Procureur General, but the appointment of such a person is not in our hands, it's in the hands of the Kingdom government.
When is your next meeting with the Kingdom government so that you can insist on getting a Procureur General for St.
Oh, we've insisted so much that I don't know if we will make any impact insisting more, but there's a delegation that's coming here as a result of the visit that I made on the 14th and the 15th of December. And the intention is, at that time, to list all the issues and see if we can resolve most of them. That certainly is going to be one on the list again, but I'm not holding my heart that it's going to be resolved.